Yeah!
Yes! No!
Hello and welcome to Pinball Reviews. I'm Luke and today we're going to be looking at this 1985 Zaccaria robot pinball machine. It's got some quite interesting features for the time, lots of beautiful artwork. It's an Italian machine, a bit different, it's not something you see all the time, so we'll have a little look at how we've got on a game between me and my wife. We've gone for 4-player this time because it can be quite short ball times on this. Now I've just plunged and starting off almost trained there on the outside. We'll have a look at the table here. There's 5 little robot targets. There's an orange special on the left there, a robot bridge, and those 3 pops with 3 lanes at the top. And on the right of those 3 targets for your advanced multiplier. I've drained now, and Kath's also drained. Like I said, it can be quite short ball times on this. It can be quite tricky. It's an older machine. There's no ball save, just like on Surf and Safari, but it's a little bit older, been 1985, and a little bit tricky, I dare say. Now the geometry on this game is a little bit different too. The slingshots above the flippers make it a little bit different for timing a post pass, but being the age of the machine, you can also do tap passes as well, and you'll see a few of those in the video. Oh, it's just tapped and bounced out there across the in lanes. Now this game is a little bit different. It's got a shooter lane above the table. It's only really Zaccarias who do this as far as I know, and that gives you a little bit more space on the field to be playing your game. Kat's got the ball stuck, just needs to nudge it. There we go, she's got it going again. Now she's going to be going for the purple bridge there, she's got that.
Yes! No!
Now that pops up these little robots, they'll go back in for my go. But basically as you keep hitting those down, if you get each of them 3 times, get it over the bridge 3 times, and there we go, start hitting them in the face. So this is the reason I really like this game. It does make me laugh. These cute little robots poke their heads out of the field and then you start smacking them with the ball. It's like whack-a-mole. It did make me laugh first time I played it. Simple pleasures, there you go. Now as you can see, it remembers how many times I've hit those, so I've got 5 so far. I've got them all down once, so I probably want to go for that again and try and get the next round of robots and then spell out robot and then be able to get my extra ball or extra go. There are other things on the table to go for. There is of course the multiplier at the top on the right. You can also advance your multiplier by shooting through a lane on the left, just left of that robot bridge. Oh, I've drained. Now, we've had a little bit of a chat about the gameplay. We'll have a little look at some of the things I like about this. So one thing I really like is of course the robot and the bridges. It's not the same as a ramp really, because it is a scoop which sort of flips up onto that bridge. It does sort of trickle down, but it does catch you off guards if you're not careful, and it does drop very quickly when it feeds back to those flippers, so it can catch you out there. Nice little save, I was quite happy with that. Now there are other things to go for. There is also a orange special. You can see there's 5 drop targets on the right there, and actually I think this is the way of getting the most amount of points on the table. Robots are good fun. They've come back before Kath's plunged. They know they were there last time, so now she gets another go at knocking them down. It looks like she's getting a little bit of extra bonus as she goes as well there. Like I say, you can see the purple lights at the bottom there. That's counting up how many thousands worth of bonus she's going to get. And below there, there's the lights for 20, 40 and 80 times which you get off that advanced multiplier. Right, the other things I like about this, I like the fact the robots remain for next time you go. That's a nice clever feature. It was something more than I expected when I first got this. Another thing I really like is the artwork. It does look really bright and vivid and colourful. Zaccaria were actually able to use lead-based paints when this came out, and some of the companies in America like Bally and Williams weren't so happy that they got to use these paints which were illegal in America. So there you go, it still does look really bright and really vivid today, however many years later. Other things I like about it, I like the challenge around the in lanes. The bottom playfield is pretty good on this with the 5 drop targets. Sorry, the 5 robot targets. That's nice and a little bit different. But there's also 2 little posts just above the in lanes on either side, and a little scoop you sort of just going around there. It sort of curves around the playfield, a little metal bit. Usually that feeds it back to the in lanes, but you've got to be really careful knowing about the speed of the ball and which angle it's coming from. Sometimes it can like bounce off one of those metal posts and then go down the out lane, so sometimes it can sort of skip across them as well. So it is challenging. It does keep you on your toes on that bottom half of the playfield. Other things I like about it, I'd say I like the fact that the playfield is a bit wider, gives us a little bit more space without that shooter lane and using the metal rods across the top of the field. The other thing I really like about it is the sounds. It does sound like nothing else. With a lot of the old Williams machines, it sounds a little bit like Joust because they use some of the same sounds, some of the same effects, but this is entirely its own thing, so it is like, you know, a whole different world. I do really like that about it. The robot does sound a little bit odd, but he's a robot, so we'll give him that. The sound also does sound a little bit like it's a bit underwater. It's a little bit mushy in places, but to be honest, it's all different sounds, and I do like that fact. It is, you know, completely unique in that way. Other things I like about it is there's a little bit of speech, not a massive amount from the robot. He doesn't talk much throughout the game. If you tilt, he does say, ouch, you hit too hard. So that made me laugh as well. It's got a bit of character, this game. Other things which are nice, it does have a timer feature if you want to put it on. That will let you, once you've finished each of your goes, depending on your bonus, it will give you a bonus amount of time to play at the end, which is nice. When you're playing halfway through that timer mode though, both your flippers will stop when your time runs out and then it will drain. So whatever extra points you make up there, that can, you know, make a real difference in a competition or tournament, and it is important to remember that a lot of Zaccarias do that, so make sure you're not missing that out if you're playing a tournament like I definitely have in the past. Other things I like about it, the Thermoformed 3D plastics. So at the back you've got a bit of a 3D effect, and the robot bridge you can see there's got a bit of curvature on the side, so it looks a little bit different to other machines. Here we go, I'm going for tap passing now because I think my 300,000 is flashing white on the left there. Little tap pass and then go for that 300,000. That's where I reckon the points are. That was after I got those drop targets on the right. Maybe another chance for it now. There we go. So I think that's the best way of getting the points in this game. I've not been able to beat the high score on it since I got it. I only got it in January this year. I've had it about 3 months, and 9 million is the high score on it. I've got about 7 or 8. It's interesting, you know, playing a game that you can't read a lot about online. There's not a lot of information about it, so it really is a case of playing it and trying to work out what the shots are, what I need to go for, what I'm aiming for, and what the strategy is. Now, some things that I don't like about it, let's have a think here. Now, other games usually have some way of returning the ball to the flippers in a quite straightforward manner. I mean, this has got obviously the robot bridge, and that does feed your flippers, but on Judge Dredd you've got 4 or 5 maybe different things which feed the flippers. On Surf and Safari there's at least 2. There's not as many on this at all. It does make it trickier. Another thing that I'm not so keen on, you can't change the lanes at the top, so when you do get it round up there, you can't press the flippers and decide which lane it goes over to get a few points. Oh, there you go. I suppose it is just how it is, but there you go. Tap passing can be very dangerous. I think I just tap passed there and basically didn't press the button, so I drained on that. Never mind. Other things I'm not so keen on, there's no skill shot, which is a shame. I suppose you can't really have one with the way that wireform works. It's not the end of the world, but there you go. It's nice to have a skill shot on a game. The back glass, it does reflect a little bit. You can't see from this angle, but from where you're stood playing the game, the robot has got this big fluorescent shoe behind it, and that does give you a bit of reflection. Fortunately, it's not right over one of the key shots, it's just over those 2 left robots. But it is a little bit annoying. I know, looking at some of the pictures for this, people had red light bulbs inside there, so that's probably something I want to change over the time. Maybe if I can just spray paint the bulb, I'm not sure if we can get away with that. Whatever we can do, just make it a little bit less bright, so it's a bit easier to see when you're playing. Other things I'm not so keen on, it can feel really mean when it sort of hops and skips across those in lanes and then bounces out. Kath managed to nudge it back in there, but more often than not it can, you know, bounce out. There isn't rubbers on those in lanes, so you've got to be careful with those metal bits there. When there is rubber on the in lanes, on the left hand side, the slingshots are a little bit higher than the lane, so it can have the tendency to bounce off there, and if you're not quick to nudge, it will go straight down that out lane as well. Now, other things maybe not so keen on, the back glass artwork. You can see the bulbs, the way they show on the field. We're looking at the robots at the moment. Oh, I've managed to get twice up the robot, so now didn't quite manage to spell out robot, never mind. Okay, so that back glass, you can see the robot, he's very, very bright at the moment. I've just over the last few days put some LEDs in this, so it is a bit brighter than it would have been. But I think I've got to play around and try and see what the mix is. There's a bit of a sort of weird shaping in the back glass. It's quite an odd back glass. It's got this vacuum forming, and then there's the painted glass in front of it, so it gives it a bit of depth, and the space and things are actually behind that painted artwork. So it's nice and different, but at the same time, it's a little bit tricky with the colours. I do like the fact that when the robot speaks, his chest with all those multicolours does flash up as well, so that's a nice little difference. The other thing I'm not so keen on would just be the fact that it's hard to get the multiplier, because it's not really a shot you can go for. It's really just a case of luck and getting in those pops at the top there and hitting one of those targets. There is just behind those 5 drop banks on the right a slingshot, so it will bounce up into them targets. Maybe if that was a flipper instead, that would make it a little bit easier to get there, make you have a little bit more to play for in the upper playfield. As it is, once you get it into that tunnel loop, you can sort of breathe easy for a moment while it falls into the pops, and you've got a little bit of time to wait before you'll be flipping around again. This game has had a bit of a mixed review online. There's not a lot about it. Oh, what I say. It's got about 8 out of 10 by most people who've reviewed it, but there's only been a few people review it online. It's not in any of the tables or anything. It is not a common machine. Oh, never mind. I think you're about to see the best go ever here.
Oh, it's going straight away.
Okay, so last go. Kath's just got 1 robot left. See how she gets on. Can she make it?
Yeah!
Oh, she did. Okay, well there you go.